You ever wake up feeling like you've already run a marathon and yet you've just gotten out of bed? This morning, my body felt broken, stiff knees, achy joints, even my wrist didn't want to move. And all I had done was sleep. If you've ever been in a situation where rest, the sleep that you've done overnight, leaves you feeling worse than when you went to bed, then this message is for you. I plan my workouts early in the morning, especially right now that we're in the middle of summer and it's in this extreme heat wave, because the heat and humidity make it unbearable for me to work out outside after a certain point in time. So I get up early. But secondly, doing rebounding also requires that my body be working and cooperative. I can't get on if I'm not feeling well. And there are times like this morning that are prompting this message. So this morning, I woke up naturally at 5 a.m. as I often do. Side note, did you know that you can set an intention for when you want to wake up? And just like at will, your body will wake up because you planned for it to get up that early. No alarm needed. Well, this morning it was exactly 5 a.m. when I got up to use the restroom, and I decided, just in a moment of hesitation, that I would just lay back down for a few minutes. This is not normal. But my dog hadn't woken up yet, and my cat wasn't scratching on the door, which is typical when I first get up in the morning. So I thought, okay, well, if they're still sleeping, maybe I'll just rest for just a couple minutes and come into my full state of consciousness because my mind was still foggy. But as soon as I sat back down on my bed, I ended up falling back to sleep. But it just happened, and I ended up dozing off for an entire hour till my dog woke me back up. So now we're getting up, and it's 6 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. And I got up right away because I knew that he needed to go potty, and I was sorry that I had fallen back to sleep. But my body was so stiff and it was being so stubborn. My knees just were like, rawr, like just or stiff is the best word to describe it. Like they were not wanting to move. And I had to go downstairs to be able to let him out. And we have a lot of stairs. So making my way downstairs looked a bit robotic at this point and very slow. My dog, who needed to go out, didn't even start down the stairs at the same time as me. He was like just giving me the space. I can't believe that he knew this, but like he did not even go downstairs until I was already down them. He just gave me the space to go down on my own, and he knew there was no rush. So as soon as I make it to the bottom, then he comes down quickly. I make it to the back door. I reach out with my left hand to pull the door because it opens to the left. And I realize my wrist is not going to make this happen. My left wrist has felt like it snapped out of joint and has suffered a major sprain. I did not have the power on its own in my left wrist in that moment to be able to open the sliding door. I had to adjust and use both my arms to open the sliding door. Like, what? My whole body was so sluggish and totally exhausted. And I feel like I had worked out really, really hard. I had done some kind of extraneous labor and completely beating up on my body. And now it was time for me to get to bed and go get some night's rest. Except I had just woken up. It was the exact opposite of how it should be. Shouldn't you be able to wake up feeling refreshed? I mean, I just don't understand how this is even possible. And I'm telling you what, I'm writing this message not even 45 minutes later. And I'm usually already getting ready for our morning walk at this point, but because we need to go so early because of the summer heat. But instead, I'm sitting here writing and waiting for my body to fully wake up and adjust before I even feel the energy and the ability to go on a walk. So I'm just finding my way back to my body. That's how I like to think of it. And I'm sipping my hot tea because I don't drink coffee at all, like ever. I do not like coffee. So can we still be friends? Like, I just don't understand the obsession with coffee. And tea, especially tea that is from natural leaves, which is how I drink it, is so flavorful and delicious. It's not as intense in caffeine, but it's gentle and it's soothing and it's what I need. And now I only started drinking tea. And I know this is a tangent, but I promise this all connects to the point of my story and how you wake up. Because I started drinking hot tea about 5 years ago when I went to an authentic tea shop, and the lady who worked there was from China and educated me on drinking tea and all these amazing health benefits that came with drinking tea. But I do it less for the benefits that she says come with each type of tea leaf and more just for how that hot tea helps me get back into focus every morning. It doesn't just wake up my brain, it actually helps my throat. Because here's another thing that stops working while I sleep. Most of the time, I need that hot tea in order to loosen up my throat muscles, to make my throat less dry and tight. Usually 2 mugs is what it takes in my morning routine, one immediately and then one within the hour, in order for me to be able to feel like my throat is awake enough and capable enough of being able to talk without being rough and sore and achy. But sometimes I wake up and I've had a rough night of sleep, in which involved a lot more throat breathing, maybe even snoring, which is very hard on my throat. And now my throat requires even more soothing and more mugs of hot tea in order just to cooperate and behave during the day. Like, I can get to the point where it's so intense that if I try and talk, I will lose my voice. And all I did was sleep. Like, do you see what I'm going through? Like, I'm sharing this for a reason, because I want your feedback. I want to know if you have solutions for some of these things that I'm experiencing. And I have had to study my body and learn all of this, because I used to wake up and force my throat to do work that it was definitely not ready for. And I started to notice this pattern, that it was coming from how I had slept. And I needed to change how I woke up and what I was asking in my throat and how soon I was asking my throat to create a voice and to talk, that I could alleviate some of those sore throat symptoms. Now I definitely ease into talking, and I try to prevent speaking too soon, which is also why I like to wake up so early, so that I can be up before anybody else, so I can just be awake with just my pets and give myself the time that I need for my throat to come awake, along with my brain and my body and all the other parts of me that need to wake up. And I also wear a mouth guard to bed to keep my mouth shut, to prevent biting too hard, because that's another issue I have, but I won't go into that. But all of this brings me back to, what is happening while I'm asleep? Seriously, because it's not just peaceful sleep and restoration, which I would love to have. I desperately want to be able to lay down, which, as a side note, I cannot lay down flat. I cannot sleep in my bed like a bed is designed to be slept in. I can no longer lay flat for sleeping because it makes me stop breathing. And yes, I do have a test to validate that, to prove from a doctor that that's really what's happening, as well as I have the prescribed CPAP machine. I noticed that there are times when my not breathing behavior will be so bad that I will wake up and my head is throbbing and I am not breathing, and yet the machine is still properly in place on my face and it is still running. It is still blowing air into my nose and I am not breathing because my nose is completely stopped up and my throat is completely shut off. That is not a good place to be. So I now have to sleep sitting up and do the best to my ability to maintain sitting up throughout the night, because there are times that my body will rebel. It gets tired of sitting up and I will find myself in a flat position and usually not breathing. So back to, is it possible to get a wonderful, restful, restorative, peaceful, rejuvenating night of sleep without feeling like you beat yourself up and waking up feeling worse than when you went to bed? Is this possible? And it's not so extreme every night, granted. It entirely depends on how I sleep. And I don't even know how to prevent some of these factors. I do a lot of things to get myself in a good place for sleep. So are you getting good rest when you sleep? And do you have any tips that you could give me? I'd love to hear anything that you have to offer in the comments, because I do want to be able to have a good and productive day that I know comes from sleep. I also know, and this is one of the factors that people have told me for years, and they said, we need to get your cortisol levels down, which means lowering stress. So they're like, okay, what can you do to lower your stress throughout your day and manage your emotions? And I've done a lot of work there. However, my cortisol levels, the stress hormones that you're having, all of that is also related to how well you're sleeping. And like, are you getting a good night's rest to sleep? And I'm like, I don't know, because sometimes I wake up and I feel like I've been in a fight. I feel beat up. I feel exhausted. So I know that part of the reason that I have struggled with my weight, and you look at all the science and evidence that's out there, that they say good sleep is a part of your ability to lose weight. So anyhow, you see how all this ties together, and I'm trying to figure out all these things. I'm trying to do good stuff during the day, but if what I'm doing for 7 to 8 hours every single day, that's a third of my life, yes, is wearing me down and beating me up, I've got to look at something else that I can change. So noticing these patterns, I had this week one bad night where I fell over in my sleep. Remember, I told you I have to sleep sitting up, woken up in a weird way. I was completely sideways in my bed. That is not how I went to bed at all. All my pillows were still in the right position, but I had maneuvered my body in my sleep. All this is in my sleep, granted. And I was now laying sideways across my body, which I am taller than the bed is wide. So, see, despite my best efforts, there is not a consistency or a pattern that my body seems to maintain. It all depends on what happens to me while I'm sleeping, which, not to complain, but feels a little bit out of my control right now. And I have seen other family members and other people throughout my life who talk about how it gets harder to sleep as they age. And I just don't want to accept that. I just don't. I want to allow myself to find a better way to sleep peacefully and feel refreshed so I can age well and feel strong throughout the day. So please tell me if it's been possible for you and you've come with a solution. So all that said, my dog is continuing to pester me as I've been writing in the last 10 minutes because knows that he's supposed to be outside walking, and he also doesn't want to walk in the extreme heat. So he is ready to go. So I'm wrapping up this message and I'm going to get moving so we can get outside. At least my mind is more alert now because I've had the hot tea and I've been channeling my thoughts. So all that, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I wish you the absolute best. Happy bouncing, friend, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.